Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show.
Good morning, the Rise Up Morning Show.
Christina was yesterday years old when she realized there was a gong at the end, and I said, yes, there is a gong at the end. And I laugh every time. It kills me every time I forget that it's there, and it's just so not what you would expect after that little ditty.
No, but it's the perfect, I don't know, exclamation point right at the end of almost every sound. It's nice.
Correct.
It sure is. All right, so Will, I wanted to start us off actually with something really interesting that I want to get your reaction to, because I've never tried this before, and I did so that you and I specifically would have something to go over. So here's what I did. I asked a couple different AIs. This one that I'm going to go through with you right now is going to come from Perplexity. And I told it, because you can basically ask it about current events, right? They're connected to the internet. They can search all this kind of stuff. So I asked it, hey, here, I'll read my first little prompt for you. Looking at Bitcoin's current price action and also at Bitcoin dominance using current data from the last 90 days, what are the predictions for what we should see from Bitcoin in the coming days and weeks? And I just thought it was kind of funny, and I wanted to hear what you thought about the numbers that it gave.
Okay.
They're not, I would not call them like the most absurd things I've ever heard, but like I have a very hard time believing that this is the case. So for those of you just tuning in, I'm going to run Will through AI's predictions. So just keep that in mind. These are not our predictions. This is what Perplexity thinks Bitcoin's going to do in the coming days. So Bitcoin's price is currently trading around 103,500. I did this last night. So actually
It's 101.2.
101. Okay. We're already heading in the wrong direction. Perplexity. Down from recent highs somewhere around 106, increased volatility and sell-offs, yada, yada, yada. Bitcoin dominance remains at a percentage it's absolutely not at. What is the dominance at right now, Will?
Let me... Yeah, actually, you caught me unawares. It's at 65.67%.
Oh, okay, cool. So then it actually may have been correct. So it was 64.18. For some reason, I thought that it was somewhere else. Reflecting sustained institutional preference and limiting near-term blah, 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 whatever. Okay, short-term price predictions, next 1 to 2 weeks. Immediate support lies at $100,800. What say you?
I'll have to go through a few different time frames. Let's see.
Yeah, that's true.
It said 108,000.
100,800 is where it said there was some support level.
I would say 100,139.
Okay. Is there anything at the 800 level that it could be like referencing?
I mean, we're kind of splitting hairs here.
Pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty close.
Okay. So we'll just keep running through a couple of these here. For those of you just tuning in, Evan is currently in the air en route to New York City. Evan is attending Permissionless this week on behalf of the Rise Up Morning Show, made possible by our friends over at Aptos, who are bringing Evan up there and getting him into the conference and hooking him up. Evan will be on the conference floor for some time. He's going to be going to a lot of different side events. I expect that he will be on the show throughout the week, just not today because he's flying. And might have some guests. We've got a couple guests this week, and then everyone else is going to be, or every other day rather. Evan should just be kind of tuning in probably from the conference and give us a little look from the ground of what's going on Permissionless. I've never actually been to Permissionless. That's the one that I have never done. I do consensus every year. Never done Permissionless. This year it looks like it's going to be incredible.
Wait, so is that all the prediction that the AI had?
No. There's a lot. I was just
okay.
So I realized I never addressed where Evan was and why you and I are sitting here hosting the fake radio show together, and that was my bad. So, okay. Let's see. Potential declines. Okay, so it's told me that it sees support at 100,800. with further potential declines to 97.6 or 92.8 if bearish momentum continues. A close below 102 could accelerate losses towards 98.
The next major area of support for Bitcoin is between about $97,000 to $93,000.
Okay.
With
so
a
that's-
gap down at $91,170.
Okay.
Which is basically 92.
So far, it's making me feel a little bit better that at least its analysis has been relatively good. I think we're going to get lost in the predictions because at least when I look at some of these, I'm like, okay, buddy. I don't know that as someone.
Is it like ultimate bull posting?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Should we
yeah.
connect it to a Twitter and like give, I don't know, Mr. Crypto a run for his money?
I think you really could. Yeah, there's got to be some of those accounts that are just constantly overbold. What Alex Becker, who's just been calling for altcoin season like in 2 weeks for the last 2.5 years.
Yep. I've seen a lot of people roasting him really well on Twitter.
Because he just can't read the room, dude. He's just Alex, buddy.
I'm pretty sure it's just because bull posting gets more engagement.
Yeah, but I guess at this point, I guess he's just farming the hate, which I guess is a strategy.
Yeah, farm the hate and profit off of it. Go for it.
Okay. So, actually, let's bring Doug up on stage, and I'll get Doug's reaction a little bit as well to a few of these perplexity predictions. Doug joining us from the bathroom.
What's up?
What's up, dude?
What up, dude?
I've been sick. I'm here. How we doing? Still sick.
We are
no.
doing great. We're going through Perplexity's prediction for Bitcoin in the coming days and weeks.
Interesting. I recently started messing around with the ChatGPT component of pasting charts in and just seeing what its reads. So I'm actually going down this path as of late to try to gauge like how much can I not trust it, but just understand its thought process, right? Essentially. So yeah, shoot off. Let's go. What do you got? What else?
So I don't know. Did you hear the first little bit?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Okay. So it also notes that the upside potential is that a rebound scenario could target 108 to 110.5 if bulls can defend key support levels with technical resistance near 112.
So say that one more time.
Okay. So this is short-term price predictions for the next 1 to 2 weeks. We said the downside was some support in the 100,000 and some odd hundreds, with a potential future decline to 97.6 or 92.8. A close below 102 could accelerate the losses towards 98. I'm actually curious. I didn't click on any of the sources, but it does cite sources for all of these different things. So I imagine that it's just finding articles. I don't think it's doing any data analysis. I think it is just reading a lot of other predictions and finding some sort of average, is my guess. Okay, so then we go into the upside potential for the same.
So let me pause you there.
Go ahead.
So you said if we don't have a close basically above 102,000, then the odds of us rolling over to 98K is what it was calling for, essentially, right?
Yes.
So on my chart, that would basically be us saying that if we have a daily candle close below the 55-day exponential moving average, which also lines up perfectly with a key line of support and resistance from our Fibonacci retracement line, then yeah, that'd be a really stiff resistance that would knock us down and send us to that 98K number. So that's what I see on my chart. And I would go, yeah, that is how I would expect that to go if we have a daily candle close below that.
Agreed here.
Interesting. Okay. So let's get into the upside potential, because when we get to weekly and monthly, this is where it really loses me. But I don't really know. It just seems insane. So like I said, the upside potential would be rebound scenarios target between 108 and 110.5 with technical resistance near 112.
So the 112 is the previous high. The 108,000 is a line of resistance I've drawn on my chart from the two most recent highs. And the 110,000, that's just the top of another high. So I mean, like it's picking resistance areas.
Okay, so it seems to actually be taking something off of there then.
Yeah, no, it actually is.
Okay, so it actually notes then here's some particular volatility drivers in the short term would be market sensitivity to Fed policy, ETF inflows, which it has listed as quite large for, I guess, iShares. And then it does note geopolitical events may amplify swings. So it's at least noting. I was curious whether or not it would be getting any information or taking into consideration the impact of entering yet another unwinnable war in the Middle East. But it seems to at least be mentioning it a little bit. Okay, you guys ready to move on to weekly and monthly?
Give it to me.
Okay, so for the rest of June, which again is the same thing as the short term, forecast suggests a range of 106 to 137.8, averaging at 122.
Oh, sweet. Perfect, guys. We're going to get it up to $122,000.
Yeah, so
in the next 7 days.
Yeah, keep in mind that the best case for the next 2 weeks is 108 to 110, but by the end of June, 137.
Damn.
So
Can't wait
I would
for the
like
end of
to know
June.
Check that source. Is that like, I'm curious, does that go to someone, and then that someone, how? Where is that number coming from?
Okay, let's take a look.
Because there's a couple AIs on Twitter. I know they're out there. It used to be like, there's Quant, Keck. There's a bunch that are focused around TA. Now, initially, like, I messed with them or at least referenced them and asked them things, and some are good. But I know this one sounds like it's almost going towards citing references of an analysis or a blog post, which is fine, right? But I think having both perspectives is interesting if you could do that.
Okay, so the first source, well, I would not call this a source. This is some blog that is running a prediction analysis for Bitcoin from 2025 to 2040. Okay, here, let me share my screen with this because this is hilarious. The price chart on this blog just shows us where we are now, kind of like, going down, and then it's just rocket ship, just straight up to 100 starting today. So good news, everybody. This random no-name blog, Changely, says it's a rocket ship starting this morning. So I guess congratulations to all of us. Look at that.
Oh, everyone can hear my echo. Damn.
Yeah, on YouTube they can, just because we've got the sound coming from both sides. But they're the two sounds are like super matched up, so it's echoey, but I think that we can at least understand and hear. It's the best that we can do for right now. At any rate, look at that price chart right there. Or I should say this prediction chart.
So
It's gonna go up. I agree. It'll go up. Cool.
June 23rd to June 27th, we will go up to 130,000. Nice.
I'm going to bookmark this blog, and we're going to come back and look at it at the end of the month when it's still basically the exact same as it is now, maybe a little lower or maybe a tiny bit higher.
But what if?
But what if?
See, now it goes into these, like, how many of these blogs, I'm not implying this one is, are generated by AI. Like, that's the next thing too.
Yeah.
Now it's almost like constant, what's that, the dead internet theory? I don't know if it applies here, but essentially where it's like almost that everything we're looking at is essentially AI too. So it's like,
right.
The only way I explain it for Excel nerds is your circular reference. It's all I look at. It's all I think about now. Or just the same stuff over different perspectives with the same AI, or different AIs interpreting AI at that point. So find the humans that you trust prior, and go to them.
Amen. All right. That is the most outlandish. So then it has July that we should expect. Sorry, this one's kind of funny too. For July, we should expect to trade between 108.9 and 133.1 with an average of 121.
For the month?
For the month, yes.
I mean, that's not a... I mean, like, for the month, you're saying, hey, there could be a $20,000 swing. That'd be a very bullish month. But, like, possible.
Right.
That's possible.
Technically.
Yeah.
I mean, technically,
Just-
it's also possible that that price chart we just looked at is correct.
True. That could happen. If enough people buy and people don't sell.
That's the secret. No selling.
Secret.
And then the last piece of prediction that it gave me here was for just kind of general the rest of Q3 into August there, with predictions between 102 and 110, and September at 99 to 100. So for those keeping score, the AI thinks that what we're going to see is $140,000 Bitcoin in the next 7 days, but then flat, pretty much where we are now, give or take $1,000 or $2,000 for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just, you know what? I thought it would be, it's a funny little experiment. I'm going to try to run this more often. I've noticed that it's even more ridiculous when you do it with altcoins, because exactly what you said, Doug. I think like you've got, you know, or even if it's not an AI, it's just like reading nonsense, right? I mean, you guys remember when Google started doing like the AI search results instead of just whatever, and it would like try to answer the question, but it was just like pulling things from kind of wherever, and every now and then it would just give you an answer from like a Reddit post with some absolute like nonsense anon who just wrote some absolute garbage, and it just got sent to you as the real answer. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting here, that it could just be, I mean, I could go tweet right now Bitcoin to 160,000 next week, and an AI somewhere has the potential to see my tweet and be like, oh yeah,
Exactly.
could be legit. Anyway, it actually gave quite a bit more interesting information. So if you skip the price predictions, oh, I'm sorry, there is one more just outlandish number that I thought was kind of funny, based on basically nothing. So there's some tidbits about where Bitcoin dominance is projected to hold. It predicts above 64, which is what we're at right now, right?
Yep.
Ish? So then corporate treasuries like MicroStrategy and different ETFs diverting capital away from altcoins. Yep. I mean, that makes sense. Technical strength, the bull market support band. Is that a thing? The 20 and 21 week EMA?
I mean, the EMAs are right. I don't know if it's calling it that.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Apparently this is calling it that.
Calling it the support band. I mean, people use a bunch of different exponential moving averages or simple moving averages. Just depends on your fancy.
Yeah. Interesting. Altcoin suppression. So it says only 10 of the top 50 outperformed Bitcoin in the last 90 days. Oh, that one, that sounds like a real thing that it's quoting.
I mean, it's probably
actually
could just be pulling that from Coin Market Cap.
Schmack says, did the AI ask its future self? Hashtag string theory. We'll never know. Okay.
But I will say, its predictions of the short term, I mean, yeah, I think those are all points of resistance on my chart, so it's pulling those points out correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what it thinks it's going to happen is kind of fucked up.
Yeah, I feel like Doug and Will, I feel like you guys might be able to get more out of it if you prompted it back. Because I was just like, hey, what's it going to do? You know, so someone like me with no, technical analysis know-how, I couldn't tell you. It could have wrote me all kinds of numbers, like the current Bitcoin dominance or whatever. I would have had to go look it up to see whether or not it was, that was real or not.
I would have just been like, hey, do it better.
Hey, do a better job.
Hey, do it better.
What I would be curious too is if you took I don't have to do it now, but take on TradingView, just take a screenshot of Bitcoin, like just say over the last 2 months period, and then paste it in Perplexity, that same chat, and ask it, would you change any of your recommendation or your thoughts based on this chart, and see what it does.
I'd also ask it, when will I make $1 million overnight? Which altcoin do I invest in right now to get me $1 million overnight?
Let's see what it says.
It'll say,
I'm gonna ask it exactly that word for word.
It'll say, hey, if you invest $2 million into this coin, you'll have 1 million by the end of the night.
Guaranteed.
But Doug, what are you up to? I know you're sick.
I'm
was the
getting
weekend?
over it. It's like allergies. I have never had allergies. Like I have asthma, like so I'm allergic to dogs and cats, but never like allergies. But it's been so much like head cold, can't talk, coughing up shit, you know. So like, but yeah, I'm on the way out here. I think because I made the mistake. I think I told you I was sick 2 weeks ago, a week ago. Then I went to a party last Saturday, in a small karaoke room upstairs on top of a Japanese restaurant with like 30, 40 people, and that was a bad idea. And I knew as I was in there, I'm like, I'm getting sick without a doubt. I'm going to get sick more, and it did. So, but yeah, no, I can't. I'm just observing all this very, very unique time. Let's put it that way, and the dynamics of gold, the oils, the silvers, and obviously crypto and stocks. It's just wild. It's just yeah.
Well, guys, one thing
too is Doug and I are trying to schedule a Monday evening, 1 hour, just like talking about charts and finances together in a live session. So,
Doug, maybe we can
do that on like Thursday then when you're feeling better.
Yeah, that would be actually a perfect time to do that if that works for this week. Just to do the first check here.
All right, Thursday night.
Sweet.
Doug and Will for an hour.
Man,
Alex, you look perplexed.
I am perplexed. Yeah, the echo for your side has been lined up like really nicely, so it just kind of sounded, resonant. But just now, say something else.
I mean, this echo in my head sounds bad.
Yeah, it was real bad just a second ago. It's evened out a tiny little bit. We'll work on that for tomorrow.
Yeah,
We're halfway there. Anyway, unfortunately, perplexity is not going to make you all millionaires overnight. It just actually, I respect there is no altcoin or any cryptocurrency for that matter that could reliably make you $1 million overnight.
Dude, the markets are so weird right now. I just pulled up the oil chart, and oil super exciting, guys. But when there's war in the Middle East, it is something to look at for sure. So I pulled up oil because Iran's parliament voted to close the Strait of Hormuz, where 20%.
They did that.
Well, they did it over the weekend, but it was the parliament.
It was like fake.
It needs.
So it is confirmed.
It needs to be ratified by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini, and that hasn't happened yet. And but the vote went through. And so if the Strait of Hormuz gets closed, 20% of the world's oil supply gets blocked off. So that should send the price of oil skyrocketing. Except oil futures markets opened up last night. They went up a bit, and now they're actually below where they started the day before. Oil prices are getting rocked in the opening hours today. So it's like the market doesn't think there's going to be war in the Middle East. It's very weird.
I'm curious, Will, did you see? So there's a creator on TikTok, Mr. Global, who I think pretty much exclusively talks about kind of the oil industry, oil markets, and things in and around the industry that affect oil and all that good stuff. He had a very good video, I thought, on the whole Strait of Hormuz thing, just because that's definitely not something that I'm like educated enough to have a conversation about. But his video,
any interesting snippets that you can recount for us?
Just basically that, so while there may be a proposal on the table or approved partially to close it, it's really not that easy. It's been attempted to be closed before, didn't really work out. And there's definitely, like the potential to make it a zone of conflict. But more likely it'll just be very chaotic in the short term, because there's obviously lots of active threats now in and around that region for anything slightly American. But that it's not just as simple as like shut the whole thing down. It's definitely done whatever. I mean, naval presence from elsewhere could kind of bully it back open again.
Yeah, that's a very tight waterway though. And then fills
for sure
that place with a lot of targets for Iranian drones and torpedo boats.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
I mean, as a move to it, it would be more of like inflicting pain. There's no upside for them in any way, shape, or form to do that. It would just be,
it's just it's a negotiating tactic at this point. I feel like.
Hey, Alex, really quick, just I'm sorry to go back real quick. I asked Grok the exact same thing when you did with Tiggers, and just super interesting. So short-term altcoins with short-term potential based on recent trends: Pepe, Bonk, and random Sushi.
To make me an overnight millionaire.
Yeah, and then another ones too was additional notes from X Sentiment, AIOZ, and SpoonX or SoonX, SOONX.
Spoon.
And then the last one was safer alternatives. So the fact even it says Grok, Solana and Cardano. Okay, that's take that for what it is.
You know, interestingly, let me pull this up. I was kind of poking around for some current events, and there was an interesting one involving Cardano. And I'm like, interesting. I wonder why this was not like more heavily publicized. But I mean, that kind of tracks. Where do we go? Where'd you go? Stall. I didn't get the stall sound.
He was doing something recently. I saw.
He's always doing something.
He was at the ranch. I was like making up the ranch. So that was the thing. Just the.
You know,
Charles.
I got invited to the ranch once.
No, you didn't. Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So
Why didn't you go?
the long story short, on why I didn't go. So I was at Consensus in 2022, and we went to go check out the Cardano booth because it was just bananas. It was ridiculous. So it will imagine. So the way that it looked this year, not Cardano's, they weren't there, but like in general, just kind of, you know, very graphic, very like cookie cutter, just clean lines, you know, very trade show-esque, whatever. In 2022, which Consensus was in Austin, the Cardano booth was sprawling. It was like the size of the Stellar Networking Lounge, and it was just full of plants. It was like this jungle landscape with like tech stuff in the jungle. And you know how when you walk through like a nature preserve and you're through the little paths and there's all these like little pedestals with little, little plaques?
Yeah.
That just show you a tidbit about the tree you're looking at or whatever. That's what it was, except it was for Cardano stuff. And true story, Mac and I were standing there just kind of looking through these, just being like, oh my God, this is insane. Like who designed this? This is crazy. And we just like turned around to leave and ran face first to the point where Charles Hoskinson. And he was on his way in to do to watch the product demo for the Lace wallet, which was supposed to be their big thing.
Never heard of it.
Exactly. Yeah, right. I was at the demo and I barely heard of it. And then after that, I was trying to get more information about it and like trying to figure it out. And it was just like still very hard to get into. So big wump. But anyway, as we're standing there watching this demo, we are standing next to Charles Hoskinson's like executive assistant. And we were kind of talking a little bit about what we do and what we're working on and all this sort of stuff. And he thought it was really interesting. And we got invited to some party that was like the Cardano side event for that conference. And long story short, we ended up going. The event was awful. It was the worst crypto side event I've ever been to in my life. There was a moment where Mac and I were looking at each other. I think Evan was at that one too, where we were looking at each other in the middle of that thing, and we were just like, nothing has ever made me want to sell more ADA than this.
Was it 2021?
Than this event. 22.
22.
Yeah. It was just like one guy with a bullhorn just screaming at people. It was on like the 18th floor of some building. The only way out was this single little elevator. It was a massive like fire hazard.
And then they locked us in.
Basically, dude.
Until we bought enough Cardano.
If you wanted to get out, you needed to wait like 15 minutes at least in line for the elevator. There was this weird selfie booth that the guy with the bullhorn was continually bullying people to get into and take selfies. It was awful. But one thing that came out of that was an invitation to the ranch. Didn't end up going because that guy's tenure as Charles Hoskinson's executive assistant was short-lived, and then we just sort of gave up. And also the invitation was really weird. He didn't want to like invite us to do work stuff. It was like to come just look at it. And then I just got the sense like, oh, he just wants social media coverage of his ranch and his helicopter and the Falcon.
Which would be a video that would do well.
Would be cool.
Would be cool.
Yep. But honestly, didn't go, and I don't regret it. Anyway.
Hey guys, according to Twitter, a short squeeze is inevitable here. So I think we're going to get to that 130,000.
100. It was 137. Will.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I will be a
we're-
millionaire overnight.
We're going to average, just below 130 to 121 to 130. Yeah. Oh, and then sorry, I didn't even tell you the very last crazy thing was on-chain metrics, the AVIV ratio, which I've never heard of before, but I was going to ask you guys if you're familiar with that at all.
AVIV ratio? I got nothing, Doug.
No idea.
Let's take
Never
a look.
heard
The Bitcoin AVIV ratio. Okay, it is a thing. The asset value investor ratio. Oh my God. Asset value investor value ratio. What a name. Is the relationship between active capitalization, which is the Bitcoin that is in motion at a given time, and an investor's realized capitalization. Investors' realized capitalization is realized capital. I love it when they use the same words in the answer as exist in the term that is being defined, which is the price at which Bitcoin has been purchased, but discounting what was delivered to miners. Interesting. So this is like, wow, I have never heard of this.
I'm confused. Yeah. Web3 glossary. They define jargon with jargon, which means they don't know what it is.
I love it when they do that.
It's just like a gauge, like a proxy is a like, so the ratio of 100% looks like it is the typical range. Anything above 250% signals imminent cycle tops, and then below looks like 250. It looks like three standard deviations in each direction. I think it's a standard deviation.
Looks like the undersold or oversold to overbought range, like you just said, Doug, is below 55% would indicate an oversell and an imminent upward trend, whereas above 250% would suggest that it's overvalued and a recession is likely to begin.
Can you scroll up to that graph?
Yeah.
I'm not good with words. I can't read.
This one
Need
says based on
pictures.
historic multipliers, 330k Bitcoin before it hits the AVIV overbought extremes. So we got even bigger upside.
Yes.
There's a few here.
That is the price prediction that it has here. The
I was about to say.
AVIV ratio suggests that Bitcoin could reach $330,000 this cycle, though this remains a much longer term projection. Doesn't give me a time frame on that. Just says this cycle, but of course this is the cycle that never ends. Apparently.
Well, if Michael's exactly right. If Michael Saylor could just keep buying, then the cycle goes on forever.
I don't know, man. Like, at what point do you think that turns over? And
What, the Michael
Like-
Saylor?
no, not that he would necessarily change anything, but that like we become more and more and more concerned about how much he owns.
I don't think that concern ever goes away unless he dies and throws away his wallet. You know?
Sure.
That concern's always going to be there.
I feel like I don't see that get talked about enough, that like everyone in Bitcoin land who like lauds Michael Saylor when he buys more. I'm always just like, isn't this the opposite? This is not what we like.
That's I was going to mention that a minute ago actually too. They just said that. It's weird. There's like weird signals. That's which not implying anything. It's different.
Yeah.
I'd
I don't
feel
know.
better if there were like 16 Michael Saylors in the world all doing the same thing, and then that would slowly turn into more people doing the same thing, right? A, that's a more bullish scenario, but B, and more importantly, there's more very, very, very large Bitcoin whales, as opposed to just like one who's going to get like 10% of the total supply of Bitcoin one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then what if he dies and he actually does give some to like his children or grandchildren, and then they just dump at once?
Correct.
Yeah, not ideal. I don't know. In answer to Eddie's comment, does he own too much? Yes.
But if I was him, I'd keep buying Bitcoin.
Business.
He bought more today, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did the sun rise this morning?
Yeah, right.
Usually
I do love. There's a guy who
went
on
on
Poly Market who's just continuously bet on whether or not MicroStrategy buys more Bitcoin, and it's just like 27 bets in a row. Honestly, go on Poly Market. If you could do a parlay bet, I'd just be like, Michael Saylor will buy 10 times in a row over the next 5 months. Parlay bet. $1 million overnight.
Yep. You'd think. Anyway, that was an interesting thought experiment. Will, is there any data that we should be aware of? Is there anything else on your mind? Anything that you're tracking, watching, paying attention to? I know we talked a little bit about, obviously,
Yes.
conflict-driven instability. Is there anything outside of that world that you're... Oh, you've got paper.
Correct. Yeah, this is actually a huge week from a macro data standpoint. Obviously, keep your eyes out for explosions. War, not on the market's not on the chart. So today we should be getting manufacturing data and existing home sales data in the United States. Also TikTok. I'm going to slow down my talking so that the echo is not egregious for people listening elsewhere, because I know it's bad. Tuesday and Wednesday, Jerome Powell will be giving testimony to Congress for those 2 days. Also tomorrow, consumer confidence. Wednesday, also new home sales for the United States. Thursday, this is the biggest single data point, Q1 GDP for the United States economic growth, the continuous jobless claims data we get, durable goods, which shows demand from companies to buy materials to then sell to people, as well as pending home sales. And then on Friday, the next most important piece of data, PCE inflation data, as well as consumer sentiment. So it's a lot. The two biggest again, Thursday, Friday, Q1 GDP, PCE inflation. It's a good bit.
Gotcha. Okay. Full week. Are there any estimations or predictions or anything like that
Well,
for any of those? I mean, specifically, I guess GDP.
Insofar as GDP is concerned, in the Fed's last meeting, they lowered their Q1 GDP expectation growth. Or not Q1, the GDP for the year growth to 1.5%. Those of you who aren't aware, if GDP growth for the United States is below 2%, it's concerning. GDP growth should be between like 2 to like 2.4. That's seen as very healthy.
Okay.
So we're not expecting great numbers, but then again, Q1 GDP. Wait, are we getting Q1? We should be getting.
That's what I thought. I was going to ask.
We should be getting Q2.
I think it's Q1. The actuals. Like, so I think there was
That's right.
So really, I think it's I mean, it's still a factor. I think it depends on how much variance it is from what was. Yeah, it says growth rate final.
Yeah, because we got Q1 GDP numbers a while ago, but it still takes some time to measure all that data. Just like how there are corrections for the jobs market and stuff, there's like some lagging data points that come in. So this is telling people exactly what Q1 GDP was, and not with some guesstimation work in there. And it's I don't know what the expectations are, honestly. I wouldn't be shocked to see them say, hey, they're slightly worse. Because I feel like more often than not, you typically get a correction to the downside. But not always.
And then you get the Atlanta Fed GDP now, which is a entity and a calculator method to predict.
The Atlanta Fed, I feel like, is overly bearish.
And that one right now is actually super. They just the one on the 18th, which was last week. So they usually update it based on when new hard data comes out. I don't know if there's any soft data in it, but regardless, it's at 3.4% right now for Q2, which is just wild. So like, but last quarter it was drastically off. And
it was way off.
I've been starting to follow it, and of course when I start following it, it's horrible. But in prior quarters and years, it has been relatively sound, or at least in giving guidance towards what the actuals are. But I think it's just due to that this year, because of insert any variable, there's a lot of different things that are coming to the equation that you can't account for because the world right now is not normal. I don't know the best way to say it, but yeah.
Yeah, I started paying attention to the Atlanta Fed. What was it? A number of months ago, because they came out with a crazy reading that the U.S. economy was going to shrink by like 2%. It was going to be like negative 2% GDP growth. And I was like, oh, god damn. And then I looked, and like, it was really accurate, but it was off by like a 4% swing. Like the U.S. economy grew by 2% still. I was like, okay, do we just not pay attention to this?
So I guess, given then the combination of all of this kind of stuff, wherever expectations are, forgetting for a second what Perplexity says Bitcoin's going to do you guys have any conjecture? What are you watching this week then?
I mean, I'm keeping my eyes on oil, which is down by half a percentage point, which is crazy. Which makes me think that you could maybe have an opportunity for the stock market to rally, which could maybe let Bitcoin rally a tiny bit. But when I look at the weekly chart for Bitcoin, we had two indecisive candles print. The doji candles, they're all wicks. When you have a doji candle print, you're waiting for the next candle to confirm the move, and last week's candle was bearish. So you have to look at, if you're just reading candle patterns on the weekly chart, that the weekly chart is leaning bearish right now, and that's more important than anything you see on the daily time frame. So we'll see.
We shall see. It's true.
My only thoughts on that is just that so Ethereum and Solana had touched in the areas where I wanted to buy or consider buying, right, way back weeks back.
Mm-hmm.
The part I just don't understand, I need to wait to see the markets there, is like, how are stocks basically at all-time highs? How?
I know, right?
I don't get it. I don't get all the things. It's almost like this whole weekend didn't happen because even like they've rallied. Well, we had the day on the
dude. The pre-market's green,
right? Yeah.
The pre-market's green. The stock market's positive right now.
It's just I just don't get it. And then so the reason I'm bringing that up is that I feel stocks are going to determine crypto's fate in the short term, whatever that may be, or short to medium term, because crypto's taken a beating where stocks haven't for the most part. I'm saying it's crypto alts for the most part, and that's what I'm waiting for. Because right now they're still uncertain, and I don't understand it. That's all. I just don't understand why stocks are where they are. That's all.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, to someone like me who doesn't necessarily track or pay attention to or ever think about, what's driving what, where, when, I don't particularly get it either, to be very honest. I
mean, if you ask anyone, like, just even if someone doesn't pay attention to stocks, if you said someone, like, let's say someone who is aware of all the events that are going on in the world, just that generally, like, would they be shocked if you said, hey, stocks are at all-time highs? I would believe they would say yes. Most of them would be like, that doesn't make any sense.
Although,
in general, that's, yeah.
You know what I would say? If I put on my I don't even know which particular hat this would be. It's not the weirdest thing in the world to see this much like falling apart and think, who's doing really well? A handful of billionaires that happen to own probably those companies that are largely propping up the stock market. They'll probably continue to do well. Ipso facto, Latin, their companies. So in kind of like a weird dystopian way, it sort of makes sense, actually, that like shelter is being sought in these companies that are probably pulling a lot of the strings.
But on that note, I would say, if you saw the tweet from the leader on Friday, it was on Thursday on Juneteenth, where it's the holidays. We shouldn't have these holidays. He didn't directly say that, but as in general.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like which billionaires were saying that? But then I'm realizing the other side, like a Jeff Bezos likes it. I had a conversation with ChatGPT around about consumer output, like the difference of production, like employees, people being at work versus being home, and how much they actually would consume. And it basically told me that from a pure, from an overall economic output, that those non-gifting holidays contribute more to the economy by people buying shit because they're home.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's two sides there. So Jeff Bezos liked that everyone was off. And by the way, I didn't get off work. Were you off work at Will?
Yeah, I was off.
Come on, man, I didn't get off. What is this?
Nope.
It's all nonsense.
And all right. Well, your company's racist.
Yeah, clearly.
Also, whenever anybody's just like, we shouldn't be working. We shouldn't have this day off. We should be working. I'm just like, bro, we're like the second most overworked country in the world. Chill. Give us a few more.
For real.
Jesus.
Take
Only
a
Japan
breath.
has this speed. Relax.
Yeah, I will say Circle's stock is bananas.
That's the whole other thing.
I mean, that
I haven't looked at it.
it is a whole other thing. I think I was telling you here, Doug, this'll tickle you. I was at work the other day, and I was in my favorite little smoothie restaurant, and the owner and I were talking, and he was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Circle?" I was like, "Yeah, once or twice." And he's like, "Yeah, I guess they just went public," and I was like, "Yep, they sure did, and it's going insane." And he's like, "Yeah, I actually got into the IPO, like I put in for it through Robinhood, I guess, and it was like a while ago, and he bought at $28." Yeah, for those keeping score, it's over 200. And I did 90% this week.
Woo!
Is he sold? You taking profits, or can he not?
He can't.
He can't.
Well, I'd have to ask him exactly. He started to tell me.
He can't for 180 days or 90.
Yeah. But
Damn,
I
so
mean,
it opened at 107.
Damn, so it opened at 107.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Today.
Hey, there'll be a
buying opportunity in
180 days.
180 days.
woof.
Coinbase
yeah.
is a monster too right now, like just a monster.
Well, I think largely helped probably by how well Circle has gone, because
And they're now,
obviously,
Oh, yeah,
a
for
bank, right? They're kind of a bank now, or
Well,
on the way to being a bank.
So this is one of the reasons that I was talking so much about how annoyed I was with the whole like Ripple buying Circle bullshit that was circulating before the IPO, because it just doesn't make any sense, and it was obviously just like it was just another conspiracy theory fueled rumor that drove people to probably make purchases they shouldn't have. But one of the things that people just kind of kept forgetting, which is probably why the stock is reacting the way that it is that Coinbase is a partial owner of Circle. They have been for a long time, and a minority share, but they do own a part, and they have a pretty significant rev share agreement with Circle for USDC generated revenue, like half. It's quite significant. So as Circle is making a metric buttload of money, Coinbase is making money off of that, and then also as a part owner of the company. So they are doing very well right now, and Coinbase stock was doing well already, just given all of this. I mean, we had the recent entrance into the S&P 500, the first crypto company to do it. I forget the name of the company that they ousted or who dropped. Do you remember what that was? Which one? It was some digital
man, I don't
something.
remember.
I'd have to look. At any rate, so there was that, and then just the way that, I mean, the amount of publicity that they've been getting, what they've been putting their name out for. I mean, sponsoring the parade was so weird and stupid, but whatever. I just can't help but think that company's going to be, he's the next. He fancies himself the next Bezos, for sure. Brian.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he set up
Hey,
for it.
I apologize. I got to jump. I completely forgot to call at 9 here to go do real things. Well, not real things.
Real
but
things.
These are more real things. I'd rather do this all day. So, but I appreciate you having me up.
Of course. Thanks for jumping up.
Have a good day, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, man.
See you, dude.
Talk soon.
Peace.
Love you. Bye.
Will, as we enter the home stretch here, there was a question that, forgive me, I might misquote slightly, but basically just about how crypto is not just like a straight out scam, but kind of one of those more speculative. What's the purpose? What's the point?
The majority of it
seems like a way just to take money from people while pretending to have stuff there. And
A lot of
my
it is.
answer in the text was, yeah, that's most of it. I actually had a really good, very short conversation on Twitter, yesterday, where someone was, one of our friends, Lindsay, was asking how, so this is what she does all day long. She works in the industry. She works for the Stellar Development Foundation, particularly in growth. and she was just kind of commenting on how it was hard for her to post silly things about crypto, as she said, in light of everything else that was happening all over the place, and kind of how do you square talking about this when there's like huge impactful things happening. And I think that
geopolitical, thousands of people in line of missiles and gunfire.
Yeah, and I totally understand the sentiment, but actually I think that my answer to her there is the same one that I would say when someone asks, like, what is the purpose? And it's the bigger picture that I try to keep in my head whenever I think about all this kind of stuff, whenever I talk about all this kind of stuff. Remember the big picture. Remember the point. So there are a tremendous number of scams. Anytime there's a new piece of technology that comes out, especially something that is financial in essence, got to use it to grift, got to use it to steal, got to use it to manipulate. It's that always happens. I mean, in the beginning of the internet era, everyone and their grandmother was making a website, selling it for a bunch of money. Everyone thought they needed a website. Didn't know what to put on any of them yet. Hold on, I got to solve a puzzle to prove I'm a human.
I am human. Robots can't do puzzles.
They
That we'll
can't.
find out which ones are the skinwalkers in the future.
It's a very complicated puzzle. So for those of you in podcast land, TikTok,
How embarrassing.
no boundaries. There we go. TikTok just wants to check in with you every hour to make sure you're alive when you're going live, and they make you solve this complicated little jigsaw puzzle by putting one single piece into the one single opening on the puzzle. There is quite literally no way that you could fail it if you have eyes. Anyway,
That's
point.
the thing. If you have eyes, unless you're a robot.
Yeah. The point and the purpose. So when I think about, especially in terms of like a conflict globally, internationally, in honestly any place, there's always the collateral damage that happens disproportionately aggressively to the most underserved, underprivileged, just most poorly positioned people in all of those conflicts. And that's like
Without
that's
doubt.
displacement. You think about like wartime refugees, violent time refugees, anyone who is displaced from where they live for any reason. That's what the point is. The point is giving that person a way to keep things that they own, assets, value, wealth, money, whatever, safe without having to carry it around, without having to rely on some company or some bank or some guy, some middle person in an office thousands and thousands of miles away to like keep it safe for that person or to not let anyone else have access to it. My uncle told me my father's family was displaced because of a conflict, and my uncle told me when I was talking to him about Bitcoin that he can't imagine the difference that would have existed for the family if they had been able to just remember 12 to 24 words to keep all of that with them and safe, rather than having to worry that it was going to get stolen or not being able to carry everything. It's, I mean, you know, you think about like, what if your money is in cash or gold or something like that, and you need to flee? You got to carry all of it. What if you have to get inspected at some crossing, or you get stopped, or you get arrested, or you get, kidnapped or whatever? Pretty easy to take all that with you. Not to mention it's heavy and cumbersome and in the way, and you might have things that you need to take with you that are not that. You have to make decisions, and that shouldn't be the case, and it doesn't have to be the case. And so, I think that it matters now more than ever, as something else is happening that is just going to disproportionately affect underprivileged individuals and displace more humans. That you shouldn't have to be completely displaced, and a piece of this tech can solve that problem, and that's the point.
No, it's like a really powerful. Too much we spend just like looking at charts and trying to make money, and we kind of forget about the technology and what it can do. And then your story is very powerful because your family could have directly benefited from it. If this technology existed 50 years ago, like your family would be in an entirely different position.
Yeah, no, it really would. And to be honest, Will, and as we think about making money, I think that's also a part of that benefit. Like, just because you are like, all you need now, because of this tech to participate in the world economy, a system that has like kept most people out forever, is an internet connection. And more people have access to the internet than have access to clean drinking water. So all of a sudden, I mean, that's one of the reasons that there's so much vitriol towards this from so many in the like elite, especially while they were still figuring out how to get themselves positioned. You know, like, why was all of it a scam for so long? And now all of a sudden, all of those people, Jamie Dimon, who said it was a scam for so long, why are they all just like over leveraging everything else to buy more of it? It's because, okay, now we figured it out. Now we got it. Now we're good. But before, we couldn't have Joe Blow down the street buying it before I was able to get positioned, because I can't have that happen. He's not supposed to be participating. The comparison I made was every time there's a technological advancement in any capacity, anywhere in the world, anytime throughout human history, from the discovery of fire to advances in weaponry or precious metal mining and extraction and refinement or oil or whatever, it's always been front run by the uber elite, because we couldn't. I mean, when we decided that diamonds were valuable, you couldn't just like go out into your front yard and dig up some diamonds and start doing all of that, right? But here you can. Here you can just go into your front yard and get some Bitcoin.
And then the first people that ever really were using Bitcoin were all people trying to buy illicit things on Silk Road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, there's always going to be, you know, bits and pieces that are, you know, less than ideal, but at the same time.
But I said that be like the people who were some of the people who are richest in Bitcoin, you know, are people who were like the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is upsetting. I mean, because it's a reset of some sort, right?
Yeah, and especially because we were chatting with, oh my God, what was her name? We had such a good conversation with her last week. Brooke, thank you. I knew it started with a B, but I couldn't remember. But yeah, Brooke mentioned like, hey, like everyone who was using the Silk Road and was using Bitcoin to buy those illicit things, most of them don't have that Bitcoin because like they either sold it or they lost it, you know.
Yep.
It's just like,
well, I've talked to a lot of people who were involved, but more from like a nerd point of view, not even, you know, doing any illicit transacting, Silk Road, anything, but just it was nerve-wracking to hold it. You know, you weren't sure, like, oh, because of the Silk Road stuff, are we going to get in trouble for participation? I guess I'll just get rid of it. It's not really worth anything anyway.
Sorry.
I've talked to people at conferences and stuff who've been around for a long ass time that said they had thousands and thousands of them, and they got rid of them because they were just scared of getting arrested. Because we didn't really know that much about it. It wasn't worth anything, you know. They're like, oh, whatever. Okay, well, it's not worth all this trouble or potential trouble. Who was I?
Well, that was the same reason why I remember when I sold Monero a long time ago, because privacy coins were starting to get attacked, and I was just like, no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be on a list.
I always think about this. Let me see if I can find his Twitter account real quick. So Kraken's Blockchain Inc., one of the founders, has the most epic tweet pinned on his profile. I think I showed you this before, Will.
I think you have, yeah. Hello, my honey. Hello, my darling. Hello, my right.
That's your go-to stall every time. I love it. Oh, man.
It's in my head permanently from Spaceballs.
Yeah.
When they're in the diner and it jumps out of his chest, and then he just pulls out a top hat with the suit with the tail.
Just starts dancing down the bar.
He starts dancing down the bar. And then they go, check, please. And then end scene.
Okay, well, I can't. I'm not going to stall us too much longer while I look for this thing. But if effectively, it's like a pinned tweet from like years and years and years and years ago. And it's like, what do we think, guys? Is Bitcoin going to hit $11 today? And it's just like such a flex.
If you could go back in time and do one thing, would it be to go back and buy Bitcoin, or would you change something else?
Oh, that's
you can only do one.
You can only do one thing.
You can only do one thing.
The
one of those things could be punching baby Hitler through the face. Or buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's really just a, you know, who do you? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I could like confidently answer that because it's like such an impossible thing to imagine.
Actually, I think the better investment decision would be to go back to early Manhattan, buy a bunch of just plots of land, and then fast forward.
More so than, yeah, I wonder what the cumulative value of all of that is at this point. It's got to be just completely outlandish.
Yeah, just ridiculous. Just buy a bunch of land in New York, give it to one of your ancestors, and be like, don't sell this for 100 years. And then, I don't know. No, wait, they had lighters then. I was like,
Yeah, see, now
do the
that's-
lighter for magic. You're like, see, I'm magic. Ooh. Believe me.
You know, it does probably say something that now at this point, every single time you see one of those, like you could go back in time and do something, whatever. Like what's 3 words you would tell your past self, 20 years ago or whatever. Half those comments are just buy Bitcoin. I don't need 3. I just need 2 words.
Bitcoin.
Anyway, as we Will, is there anything else on your mind this morning as we start to wind down and head towards some final thoughts here?
There's only one thing to watch. What happens with Iran and the US? That's the only thing. It's the only thing that matters right now.
Yep. Be keeping a close eye also just from the humanitarian side because this is a squabble between the egos of really 2 people. And
3. Can't forget old BB.
he's one of the 2.
Oh, I was considering Ayatollah Khomeini, Trump, BB.
Yeah, I think the Ayatollah at this point, and I'm not educated enough to say this super confidently, but it feels like the timing was just like so convenient that the Ayatollah hasn't really changed. He's been what he is for a very long time. It's just the timing of it was just like, hey, we're in this weird little place right now, and you're the perfect victim. Because I mean, there was a report that came out of the intelligence community, because if you'll recall, there was a lot of disagreement between the White House and the intelligence community about the impetus to start all of this, and the report was effectively that 0 new intelligence has been produced recently to suggest that anything has changed on the Iranian front.
What's changed is Iran's a little bit more of a sitting duck, and Saudi Arabia and Israel both want Iran knocked down a few pegs.
What changed is that now people with the position and the power to do something ridiculous and large did it, and they're all in place. And Iran is
that, and also I didn't realize this, but Israel's lobbying party is the second most wealthy in American politics.
Oh yeah,
And then also the Kushner family are super good friends with Bibi Netanyahu, and also the Saudi crown prince. Which I didn't also realize that. So, hooray.
found it.
Yeah.
There it is. Yep. So, what it means for all of us is probably like the perplexity said in the beginning, just more uncertainty.
Dude,
more,
your puppy back there is needing.
He's look at him. He's just
In need.
unhappy.
Oh, not happy at all. Look at those ears. Just pinned right back.
Unhappy.
Give him love.
He he's anxious to start his day of being bad. It's gonna be a great day. It's early. He has so many hours of being a bad dog in front of him.
I thought that was my dog.
He's
I was over
anxious
here
to
like,
get
what's wrong
started.
with you?
Okay. Well, I would agree. Well, I'll be, and I think too, just it's important. I made a point the other day. I got into a bit of a tiff with someone else on TikTok. It's not worth going into again.
You got into a tiff with somebody on TikTok and or Twitter?
Yeah, go figure. But the crux of the whole thing is that I firmly believe that you can participate in the world economy without losing or sacrificing your humanity. And I see a lot of people shunting their humanity to the side in an effort to just figure out how best to personally enrich themselves. And I think that's unfortunate. I think that it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sideline yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to remove yourself or not participate in things that you do because of what's happening elsewhere. It just means you should keep it in your mind. Like you can keep things in your mind. You can continue to be a human being with empathy instead of a robot with apathy. And just, I mean, that's really it. Just like, don't be a sociopath. That's it. Yeah. And there's so many people who are just like the grossest posts and tweets about how none of this crap matters. What's the price of this going to do? It's like, you can care about what the price of whatever is going to do as it relates to all of this without just like condemning a whole bunch of people you don't know to an awful fate just because you're interested in making money and you don't care about anything else.
Ding.
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 There you go.
There you go.
Anyway, Will, appreciate you being here as always. Thank you everyone for joining. Sorry in podcast land to those of you who had to deal with a little bit of an obnoxious sound. I think I'm going to go back and listen to the recording. I think that there were some parts where it was rough and there were some parts where it was okay. TikTok, I'm glad you guys could at least hear, and I will work on getting this sorted for tomorrow when Evan should be back on the ground in New York City, attending permissionless and bringing us some interesting tidbits about the beginnings of the conference. So the conference does not start until a little bit later in the week, but Evan is getting there early. Thank you again to Aptos for sponsoring our attendance of permissionless this year. Evan will be there with them. If you guys want to look into what they're doing, we've got a whole bunch of links down in the show notes below just to check out what they're working on. And you can check out the episodes from last week where we hosted Greg, who is the core contributor, the top contributor, wrote most of Aptos. Just a brilliant engineer, interested in getting into content. So excited to help him along that journey. We also have an episode, which I'll have to go back and pull up the number, unless, Will, you just randomly happen to have that one episode number off the top of your head, where we interviewed David Walensky, another one of the co-founders.
If you just go to the Rise Up Morning Show, David Walensky, into YouTube, you got it.
You'll find it. Another thank you to our partner. This show is powered by Polygon for a little while longer, and I'm excited to get into a little bit more with them this week. We've got some requests to just go a little bit more into some staking stuff, some cold storage tutorials, and a little bit more airdrop prep. So I think tomorrow we can probably refresh everyone's memory on exactly what to be doing to stake and participate in any of the upcoming airdrops. If you're interested,
if you want to get crates, that window's about to close. Isn't it tomorrow?
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it's like right around the corner. Okay. Let me double check. You guys are gonna hear me clickety clack.
So for those of you who are unsure what Will is talking about, the DeFi focused chain Katana is running a pre-deposit window where you can pre-deposit USDC if you like. I think you can also deposit Tether and one or two other things, and you can get or earn.
It's tonight.
Tonight at 8 p.m. Oh, thank you, Magic.
You can get Monday, June 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Nailed it.
Final deadline to deposit into Katana crates.
Perfect. If you guys are interested in that, hit us up in Discord. We can share a little bit about where to go, what to do. Notably, the cool thing about these crates, at least the part that I'm the most excited about, is they're not selling them. You're earning them for pre-depositing, but you don't actually have to spend any money. You just have to pre-deposit into Katana, which is pretty cool.
Mainnet is June 30th, so you'll get access to the money you deposited again, or you can keep it in Katana, continue to earn interest. And so Katana goes live.
Great. Yeah, the 30th. Right around the corner. Not much longer. Cool. Anyway, I look forward to seeing all of you bright and early tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here. And Will, if there's nothing else, I'm going to send us off.
No, I got nothing else. We'll try to work out the audio issues and be ready to go tomorrow.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's something, I know it's something small and stupid, but anyway, thank you so much. All of you have a wonderful time. And until tomorrow, take care.
Bye-bye. I'm going to keep waving. I'm going to keep waving. I'm going to keep waving. Hello, my honey. Hello, my darling. And hello, my darling. We're